Hi everyone. Wanted to do an introduction prior to doing my top 100. It's going to be 100. I know I said 50 or 100. The assembled pile is behind me and it's already like 120 records. So I'm going to do 100 or maybe 120. I'll probably start it this week. We'll count down. I'm sure there's anticipation globally for this. Kidding. But first, a couple ground rules. Let's see. There are not going to be any box sets. There are no greatest hits with the exception of one, and I'll explain that when I name it. Why? What else? Again, they have to be released, or I have to have a copy on vinyl for it to make the top 100. These are my favorite records and the records that had the biggest influence on me, not the records that I think are the best. That could be a different top 100. And the top 10 would probably be all Dylan records or Beatles records. I don't know. So that's my dog yawning in the background. He's even bored by this video. So what I wanted to do here is, well, before I get into this, I'm not being prescriptive about this top 100. I sort of just went through my shelves and grabbed records, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some. And I'm sure there's some that people will say, you really think that that is a better record than that, which you didn't mention in your top 100. But again, these are my favorites, sort of done without a ton of work, I guess you could say. Just tore them off the shelves. But I looked at the top 50 this morning, which I still need to grab a few more to sort of likely shuffle up that top 50, but I think it's pretty representative of where I'm going to land. So that'll be likely in a few days. Top 100 I'll probably do by tens, because my channel here is more about the stories related to music. That's why I started this channel. The sort of stories of my life or your life or our lives and how they tie into the music that we love. As much as I've never been an audiophile, I am becoming more interested in high quality audio records. So that is becoming increasingly important to me, the mobile fidelity stuff, the acoustic sound stuff, because it really does sound just remarkable when it's a really good pressing. But there are a million channels out there that do that, that talk in a VC community, which I guess I'm somewhat of a part of. But what interests me most and what I will do even more so going forward as I make these videos is the stories. That's always what's interested me. So I am about to go on my afternoon walk. Ever since the bad news that sort of crept into my life lately, walks help. So for anybody who's struggling, that's a recommendation from me. They do really help. I'll walk for half an hour and I'll watch some baseball later. And I'll recommend the app Insight Timer, which I use for meditation. It's been phenomenal. It's probably the best subscription money I spend every month. So a bit of a tangent there, but tying in my last video. But what I wanted to do before I close out, probably for the weekend, I grabbed a bunch of CDs that would be in my top 100 if they were released on vinyl, and/or if I had them on vinyl. Is that an and/or or just an or? I don't know. So here are a few that would, and I'll tell you sort of where they would land. So this is the first one I grabbed, which is the Pernice Brothers. That's Joe Pernice. This was his band after the Scud Mountain Boys. This was released on Sub Pop, and this record is called Overcome by Happiness. I listened to this a ton in the late 90s. Just a tremendous record. Came out in 1998. And the CD is actually not in there, so it's somewhere else in a stack or something. But I hope Sub Pop releases this on vinyl at some point. Where in my top 100 would it land? Probably in the 70s, I'm guessing. So, Pernice Brothers, Overcome by Happiness. Next, this one is one of my favorite songwriters, Kenny Roby. This is the record Mercury Blues, after he initially disbanded Six String Drag. I think they're still together, and they've done a bunch of reissues. They're great. But this record, Mercury's Blues, is just incredible. Highly, highly recommend it. I'm trying to see the year, 1999, so I'm really into the late 90s. Where would this land? Probably in the 80s. Next one came out in 2005. This is Amy Mann's The Forgotten Arm. One of the more underappreciated or underrated records. I was shocked that this didn't end up on tons of year-end lists. Concept album that is just remarkable. It's my favorite Amy Mann record. This would probably land in the 50s, I'm going to say. Next, 1998 again. Chicago singer-songwriter Chris Mills. This is the record, I always botch the title, Every Night Fight for Your Life. This would probably be in about the 90s, maybe just cracked my top 100. But a fantastic album by a great songwriter. I think this might be on very limited vinyl. Solomon Burke's Joe Henry produced album, Don't Give Up on Me. Came out in 2002 on the great Fat Possum label. My girlfriend at the time, we were together for 3+ years. This was our record. We played it all the time, and it is a beauty. And I was lucky enough to see Solomon Burke at Radio City Music Hall prior to his passing. One of the greatest singers ever. And this bunch of covers on here. He actually covers Joe Henry, covers Tom Waits, Van Morrison, Dylan, Elvis Costello, Nick Lowe. Are these all covers? Might be. An incredible record. This would probably be 50s. Speaking of Joe Henry, his 1992 record, Short Man's Room, I think this was his second record after Shuffletown or Kindness of the World, so maybe his third. This was on the great Mammoth Records label out of North Carolina. This is my favorite Joe Henry record, and Joe Henry has had a lot of different sounds and records, and this record is what initially, one of the first bands in the early 90s to really blow up my love of 90s alternative country and singer-songwriter, and down a long path that led me to Nick Drake and Graham Parsons and Towns and Waylon, and this is one of the records that started it. Joe Henry's Short Man's Room would probably be in the 60s. This one came out in 2000. Mark Olson of the Jayhawks. His solo record, My Own Joe Ellen. I adore this record. Probably be in about the 90s. But just a fantastic non-Jayhawks album that I love and still listen to regularly. Next is from 2000 again. The Slobberbone record, Everything You Thought Was Right Was Wrong Today. This is Brent Best, who I've mentioned. My dog is on the cover of his solo record, which I think is right here. So maybe I can show it to you. I think I mentioned this. If I haven't, how could I not have? It's a proud moment for me and the puppy. That's my dog. Brent did this solo record in 2015, I think, and he used a photo of my dog Bennett, who is going to go on that walk with me. But this is my favorite record of theirs. This would probably be in the 30s, maybe the 20s, maybe the 10s. Slobberbone, Everything You Thought Was Right Was Wrong Today. Put this on today, over the weekend. It's this time period, 1999, the Kelly Willis record, What I Deserve. This would be probably in the 40s, maybe 30s. Just a remarkable record on Ryko disc. Kelly Willis is one of my favorite songwriters ever. And I really hope a lot of her records get vinyl reissues at some point. This would be my favorite of the bunch. Another Slobberbone record, 1997, Barrel Chested. This is the first record that got me into Slobberbone, and I discovered this, I think it's I knew about it beforehand. First time I went to South by Southwest was 1999, and I will soon, in a video, talk about the time I saw Slobberbone at South by Southwest, and it was one of the more transformative shows of my life, and that will be in a future video. But this record, Barrel Chested, would probably be in the 70s. Richard Buckner's Devotion and Doubt, top 10. No doubt about it. Maybe top 5. Produced by J.D. Foster. This came out in 1997. It was Richard Buckner's, major label debut. After Bloomed, it was Bloomed, then Devotion and Doubt, then Since, then The Hill. What a 4-record run by one of my favorite songwriters. This is a dark record, but a record that has helped me through tough times. I want this on vinyl, and maybe I'm the one who needs to put it out. Richard Buckner's Devotion and Doubt would be, again, a top 10 record for me, possibly top 5. On certain days, this is my favorite record of all time. So this is the big one that won't be in the top 100. Here's another great one. Not very well known at all. Came out in 1999. Robert Becker, who was in the Gin Blossoms, he was the piano player in the Gin Blossoms. I actually managed him when this record came out. I was living in New York, and he and I became friends via the scene, the sort of indie rock alt country scene in New York, and I helped him put this record out. And it's a phenomenal record. I think it's really hard to find. I may have copies that I could potentially send to, I think I might have copies somewhere, because this is very hard to find, but it is a great singer-songwriter record. I believe Eric Ambel plays on it. Chip Robinson from the Backsliders plays on it. Just an absolutely lovely record. There's that picture of Becker. I think I took that photo. I think. This was a fun time. But if you can find it, Robert Becker's Lot number 99-0038. And finally, and again, I'll just say this is not exhaustive. If I were to, most of my CDs are up there. I'm sure there are plenty that would make my top 100 that I do not have on vinyl, but I just don't have the time to go through all of it, and you guys don't even want me to. I could probably even, I was gonna say the No Alternative soundtrack, but I do have that on vinyl. Just looking at records that would have made it, I'm sure there are a ton, but I can't pick one out right now. So to close, this would be top 20. The Gourds, Stadium Blitzer, one of my favorite bands ever, without question. And this is their masterpiece in my eyes. Their first two records, first is Dem's Good Beeble. This is Stadium Blitzer, came out in 1997. I became friends with these guys. Almost moved to Texas, and Kevin Russell, one of the two lead guys, who is now Shiny Ribs, talked me out of it, or gave me information that made me talk myself out of moving to Texas. That was over 20 years ago. This might even be a top 10 record for me. Just tremendous. Came out on Munich Records and Watermelon Records, distributed by Sire. There's a lot of players involved. But the Gourds Stadium Blitzer closes out my introduction to my top 100 records of all time, which I will be starting in a few days. Lastly, for everyone who wrote a note, or even just, there's a kind group of folks who watch my videos, so thank you for the thoughtful comments after my last video. This is like nothing I've ever gone through in my life, and I'm just taking it day to day, sometimes minute to minute. I thank my family and friends, anybody who's, any of my family and friends who might be watching this. Thank you for holding me up during all of this. And I wish you all a great weekend, and I look forward to doing my top 100 and hearing your thoughts on that top 100. Lastly, I don't really pay attention to subscribers or any of that, but I do see, well, I guess it's a lie, because I'm just about to say I'm just shy of 500 subscribers. And this is not to get subscribers, but when I hit 500, which I imagine will probably happen, I am going to donate $500 to Backline, which is a mental health organization that provides resources for the music industry, for artists, for tour managers, for roadies. I'm a part of that organization, and just as a thank you for people who are watching this video, when I hit 500, which should be shortly, I'm going to make that donation in the name of the individual who I lost recently. So again, that's not to get subscribers. I just imagine it'll happen naturally, and if in a few weeks I don't get to 500, I'll just make the donation anyway. But it just feels like a weird YouTube milestone or something. So thanks again, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you soon.